I'm joined on the Silverstone Classic stage now by the director of the Silverstone Classic event, Nick Wigley, and Simon Taylor from Classic and Sports Car magazine. Nick, if I could start with you. You've been involved with this event for quite some time, but actually took over control of it last year, and I know you have a great vision for how it's going to blossom into the future. Tell us a little bit about that vision.
Okay, well, first of all, it was fantastic. I can remember going back to the very late 90s, standing in the paddock. I was involved in the event business, but corporate event business, and standing there and saying, one day I would love to run this event. Never thought it would happen. Well, here we are. Now, I've been involved in it for 3 years. We were looking after the previous owner for a couple of years, and then literally just before the event, managed to secure the ownership and the rights to it for a long term. And with a great team behind me, yes, we have a fantastic vision. We really want to build it into something. We're currently claiming the world's largest classic motor racing festival. It is because of the number of competitors and competing cars and classic cars on the infield and lots of things going on. And we want to build it and be able to prove that that really is the case.
So tell us what's on the schedule for the 2011 event, because you've got some special things coming up, haven't you?
We've got some fantastic things. First of all, it's 50 years of the E-Type, launched in 1961, built just up the road at Browns Lane. So we are having a special, one of the rounds of the E-Type Championship, but bearing in mind we'll probably be able to start between 54 and 58 cars. It's going to be a pretty phenomenal E-Type grid, and it's going to be on the Saturday evening, so it's going to be a spectacular race, I hope. So there's the E-Type race. We're going to have a celebrity race again. Once again, you've already interviewed Rick Parfitt and Neil Primrose, and they've now gone off to compete for us in the karting challenge. We've got Group C coming back, which is fantastic. They missed a year last year, and we probably got more comments about that than we did about anything else. So we're very, very excited that they're coming back next year, and they're going to put together a big grid. That, once again, is probably going to be on the Saturday evening.
The whole event has a sort of great British feel about it as well. You've even got a village green this year, haven't you?
That's right, yeah. Well, I think we've been looking around at the success of some of the other events and trying to find something that helps provide us with lots of entertainment wherever you go. I mean, there's a huge amount of space at Silverstone. It's not like some of the other circuits where there is just no space to do anything. We have got so much space. So we're trying to provide the heart of the event away from the racing. So the village green is going to contain all those things that you would traditionally expect to see around a British village green. So it might even have Morris dancing or something. But it's about creating an atmosphere where people can just go and sit and relax and eat and drink and watch the big screens and just soak up the atmosphere of the event.
Do you think you have to be a classic car enthusiast to enjoy the Silverstone Classic?
Absolutely, definitely not, no. Of course, the core of the event, the core audience, that's how it started. It is a motor racing event, but what we're trying to do is make it into much more of a weekend festival. It's definitely family entertainment. We did an exit interview last year in 2010, and it was interesting. 95% of women who attended said they would definitely come back next year. 94% of women who were interviewed said they would recommend it to a girlfriend. So one of them obviously didn't enjoy it, but the rest of them definitely did.
Simon, I know for you it's very much about the cars, isn't it? You are a car man through and through.
It is, of course, about the cars, but it isn't purely about the motor racing. An extraordinary thing has happened to the motoring and motor car hobby over the last 15 or 20 years. As modern cars have become more and more legalized, hatchbacks have become more and more identical. It's become harder and harder to drive a car faster than 70 miles an hour on the road without getting locked up. So the shift has gone from what's the latest car to what are the cars that we remember when we were young. What was the first car we took our girlfriend out in? What was the car when we were 10, 11, 12 years old we longed to be able to afford? Because perhaps now we can afford it. And so an event like this wonderful Silverstone Classic, it's not just what happens on the racing circuit. I mean, the races are going to be incredible. I think that Nick will have more different historic racing cars going round than anywhere else in the world. What, 600, 700 or 800? But if you're there all 3 days, you're not just watching the racing. you're also looking at the other cars. You may just be wandering around the car park looking at what other people have driven up in. But particularly if you're a member of a one-make car club, and if you have a Lamborghini, you've got to be a member of the Lamborghini Club. If you have a Morris Minor, you've got to be a member of the Morris Minor Club. All of those clubs will be there. People who are dedicating their whole life to those particular types of car. You can go and talk to them, you can go and look at their cars. So more than just a race meeting, it is a festival for people who love old cars. I've now got to a stage in my life where I'd much rather go and kick the tyres of a 50-year-old Formula One car than of the latest Formula One car.
And a few, should we call them classic drivers as well? I mean, Sir Stirling Moss made his racing comeback there last year after his fall, which was great to see him out on track again. The event does attract some big-name racing drivers, doesn't it? Well,
absolutely. I mean, you mentioned just Stirling Moss. Not only did he make his comeback after that ghastly fall down the lift shaft, but of course Stirling Moss raced at Silverstone when Silverstone first began in the late 1940s. So that gives you the perspective. The guy has been in and around motor racing for 65 years or more. But one of the fascinating things about historic racing as it has gathered momentum in this country, and I think I'm right in saying, I think Nick would agree, that we have more and better historic motor racing in this country than anywhere else in the world, is that not only do you have youngsters, perhaps people who are established modern racing drivers, but the wealthy owners of nice cars are saying, I'm going to put a young hotshot in my car and see how quickly he's going to go. But you also have people who are coming round for a second bite. Not only Sir Stirling Moss, take Richard Atwood. You can see Richard Atwood racing a BRM, which is very similar to, if not the same as, the BRM in which he finished second in the Monaco Grand Prix in the 1960s. So you're not only seeing the historic car, you're seeing the historic driver. Richard has slightly less hair now than he did in the mid-60s, but he's still bloody quick.
Talking of bloody quick, actually, the gentleman sitting on your right is quite handy behind the wheel as well, aren't you, Nick?
Occasionally, yeah, when I'm allowed out.
You take part in the difficult for you. It's a very busy weekend because you're not only running the event, you're out on track as well, aren't you?
Definitely. I would love to get the opportunity again this year. I have to confess that I found it a struggle to get out in qualifying because it's the early part of the event and it's when you're really, really occupied. I went to race control, they're over there actually, and asked if it was possible to qualify on the Thursday, but they wouldn't allow me to. So I did actually get a couple of qualifying sessions, fortunately. I would love to get out more this year. It's something that I've missed a lot over the last couple of years since I've been involved, and this has occupied my life. And yeah, I'd love to get back.
It's a shame, isn't it, when work takes over and takes you out of the equation when it comes to having fun.
It is, it is. I would really love to do some more racing, I would.
It's fascinating to hear what you say about your exit interview with the wives, because I've watched families at your event, and it's fascinating that the whole family can get near to the cars. If you go to the British Grand Prix at Silverstone, a wonderful event, a world-class event, of course, but you can't get near the drivers, you can't get near the cars. You might, some would argue, get a better view of the whole event if you stayed at home, sat on your sofa and watched it on television. That's modern Formula One. Now, in the wide open spaces of Silverstone, you seem really to have cracked that, because it is possible, is it not, for ordinary spectators to wander around the paddock, talk to the drivers, even, although they shouldn't, touch the cars.
Absolutely. It's one of our key phrases, access all areas. I mean, exactly as you say, unlike the British Grand Prix, which is a fabulous event, you just can't get... Bernie has got this method of just segregating everything off, and you really can't get anywhere apart from on the outfield looking through a catch fence, 100 yards from the track. At our event, you most definitely can. You can get up and touch all the cars and talk to all the drivers and ask for interviews or autographs or whatever. And it's something that is unique about the event. There are other historic events which are getting the same in terms of not being able to get the access that you want to everybody. And this is one of the key things, access all areas, yeah.
Classic and Sports Car magazine has become a media partner with the Silverstone Classic event, hasn't it? Tell us about that relationship and why it's important, why you've taken that decision.
Well, I think the decision has been taken because this is a major British event. We are the leading British old car magazine, and we think that it's the sort of thing that our readers will absolutely love. Now, obviously, if you get the sort of spectator turnout that you want, alas, not every spectator who comes will be a member of Classic and Sports Car, although I hope that having gone, they will perhaps become readers when they leave. But the fascinating thing about historic racing is that you can enjoy it at all levels. You may be a very serious and very knowledgeable enthusiast, and you may read every word of Classic and Sports Car every month, or you may be a wife or a mum or an 8-year-old or 10-year-old wife, or a son or daughter, excuse me. But you can still get something out of the event. It can be enjoyed at all levels. And that is part of the magic of historic racing. Something I wanted to ask you about, the really terrifying thing about historic racing is how much the cars are now worth. We've got a 250F Maserati down there, which must be worth 7 figures and the rest. Yep. And yet you guys go out there, the racing is very serious, it's very hard, and there are accidents.
Oh yes, there are definitely accidents. Fortunately, I don't think the event has ever had a fatality, I don't believe. But yes, there is quite often body damage to the cars. Yes, they are incredibly valuable cars, and it is amazing how competitive some people are, especially the ones up the front. There are some people who I'm sure are out there to enjoy and exercise their cars without getting into any trouble. But yes, most certainly, people are very, very competitive. Something about motor racing, I think.
We are very lucky in this country that there is quite a lot of historic racing goes on. I mean, Silverstone Classic isn't the only event that people could go to. There's the obvious example would be Goodwood. How does the Silverstone Classic differ from the event at Goodwood?
How does it differ? I think Access All Areas is one place where it definitely differs. I think that the Silverstone Classic is definitely a family entertainment event. We're trying to turn it into much more of a weekend festival. There's a huge new campsite at Silverstone now with 7,000 places available, apart from all the other campsites around. And on the infield, we've got a huge fun fair, we've got shopping, we're going to have a pamper facility for ladies this year. I mean, there is so much to go and do beyond looking at motor racing. And of course, the music on Friday, Saturday and Sunday, we're adding music onto Sunday this year. So Friday evening's going to be typical rock, Saturday's going to be typical rock, Sunday's going to be a classical concert in the afternoon, and we're going to call it Picnic in the Paddock, and encourage people to come and open up their boots and take picnics out and sit and enjoy the atmosphere of the event.
If it's in the afternoon, will the violins be competing with the exhausts?
They will. They'll be far enough on the infield that hopefully it's not going to be too much of a problem. We've got a 40-piece orchestra coming.
Something I wanted to ask, forgive me, Louise. One of the things that Goodwood has made a great to-do about is encouraging people to wear clothes that are relevant to the period of the cars that they're watching racing. But you're a bit more informal than that, aren't you?
I think very much so. And I think that's one of the successes of Goodwood, is that he's created this period piece between 48 and 64. And the encouragement of people to come and dress up sort of makes them really feel part of the event, and you can see it in their faces, that they feel they're part of the show. It is definitely something we would never consider because it would be a copy, and you know, our event is a different event altogether, so it isn't something that we'd start doing. I'd love to start seeing people wearing race wear or team wear or an international wear or something, supporting the event in a way, but period costume would not be it.
Look forward to seeing you both there. Thanks very much for talking to us.
Thanks, Louise.
Thank you very much.